Welcome everyone to this meeting of the Joint Committee. I'm Claire Young from South Gloucestershire Council, and just to quickly introduce my committee colleagues, I've got Councillor Amanda Rigby from Bath and North East Somerset Council, who's substituting for Councillor Kevin Guy, Mayor Marvin Rees from Bristol City Council, and Councillor Catherine Gibbons from North Somerset Council, who's substituting for Councillor Mike Bell, which is why I'm in the chair. And also, of course, Richard Bonner from the Local Enterprise Partnership, who is a non-voting member of the committee. And we've also got the chairs of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Ed Plowden, and the Audit Committee, Councillor Jeff Gollop, attending. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Kevin Guy and Councillor Mike Bell. So move to item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any interest to declare? No? In which case, we move on to item 3, the minutes. So for those who were present last time, which I think is just me, isn't it? Which is unfortunate. With my memory as it is, so I'm happy to agree the minutes of the meeting of the Joint Committee held on 26th of January 2024 are true and a correct record. I don't have any corrections, and I assume no one else was diligently watching the live stream and making notes. So are you happy for me to sign those as a correct record? Thank you. Have you got a copy for me to sign?
We'll sort that out.
Okay, right, okay. Item 4 then, items from the public. There were 6 questions received. The responses to these questions have been circulated to members of the committee and published on the authority's website. In addition, 3 statements were received. These have been circulated and published on the authority's website too. Some members of the public are in attendance and can address the committee for up to 3 minutes each on the topic of their statements. So first I have Dave Redrell.
The West End Combined Authority and Special Measures, but that also affects the way the LEP is operated as well, and obviously the relationship with North Somerset. One of those things we do need to sort out is how we wind the LEP into the Combined Authority. That's been going on far too long, and we should have been doing it by now, and the future of membership of North Somerset Council into the West England Mirror Combined Authority, which needs to be sorted out as well. Absolutely, and we should have been making progress on that urgently, and it's been delayed, and that's something that needs to be picked up. So the first thing is really the BSIP. Richard, I thank you that we're going to have a special meeting of the board to discuss BSIP, but can I also request that we have the BSIP goes to the joint committee in the morning, because remember, it's a joint authority, transport authority, BSIP with North Somerset Council. So we need to get it signed off by North Somerset Council. I, as the pasture rep, work for both authorities as your rep, not just for WECA. So I'm very anxious to make sure that the voice of North Somerset are heard very clearly. And obviously, bringing North Somerset into the city region is something we need to do quickly and urgently. On public transport, I'm very keen to see work on the hubs and making sure they're fully accessible, and making sure we have CCTV at the new hubs at Portishead, Clevedon, as well as the ones that we've already done in Wirral and Weston-super-Mare. Transport security is one of the biggest issues in the BSIP guidance, along with disabling accessibility, and also the need to have drivers. So we need to be talking to First Group about how we go forward with drivers, recruiting, and we're short of engineers, so we need to be looking at how we got more engineers working on the buses. On the Gigafactory, that's very important to North Somerset and WECA. We need to be looking at the transport plan for the Gigafactory, so that we actually can take people from South Bristol and Bath and North Somerset into the factory at Bridgewater. And that also means WECA using its rail expertise in Malcolm Pass to look at how we put the rail services into the Gigafactory at Bridgewater. That would be freight first, and they may follow through with passenger. Those freight trains will run through the West End Combined Authority of North Somerset and go forward up to the West Midlands and Solihull. So it's something we need to put Western Gateway and Peninsula on as well. It's quite important. Buses are still our biggest problem. We need to make sure they link with Westlink. Westlink's got a link across into the Falcon, into the North Somerset bus network, and into the Chew Valley. Okay. And on rail, then I'm looking for rail. We need to get Weston-super-Mare station lifts working and new lifts in, basically. Nelsey and Backwell still not fully accessible, and Parsons Street's not accessible. And obviously, we need to be pushing forward Bridgewater and working with Peninsula further west towards Exeter. So, the port, the airport are in Bristol, are in North Somerset. North Somerset needs to be a fully combined member of this authority. We need to be working on that after the Bristol local elections. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next name I have on the list is Rosa Kell, but I believe this is Tina Biggs.
Hello. So what actually happened was I was supposed to put a statement in by yesterday. I missed the deadline. So I'm going to be shamelessly using Rosa's slot, which I have actually spoken on at last meeting. So her points are to do with buses, Somerset Capture Bus Campaign, and I'll just record her thanks for the X91 to Valley. But I'm just going to grab the microphone now. On the regional plan, I couldn't agree more with Marvin about the need for a big, bold, integrated vision. I think the thing that was most dismaying about the West of England partnership was just the way that every meeting you'd have this list of small projects, really small bits of money each, and they not related to each other. And it was this sort of, well, we've got this pot of money and we're going to make sure that our authority gets enough money. And that was so dysfunctional. And I can see that's really what Mayor Dan Norris has been trying to do, is trying to make the whole place behave like a proper regional, visionary, big money transport authority. And, Marvin's brought so much vision to that. So I am going to also back up what Marvin's asking about mass transit. Please keep that going, for heaven's sake. I'm happy to argue the toss about Gloucester Road, whether that should have trams up it or not. Personally, I've lived in Grenoble for 2 years and really enjoyed using the trams. But then I didn't have a bike at the time. I did have a bike and I did have an accident with some rails. So yes, I take your point about tram rails and bikes. And I take your point about Clifton Down. We have a train service that goes straight under Clifton Down. So there is a precedent for some tunnelling. And as we've said before, please keep tram trains, the idea of actually taking the train off the track with a proper junction so that that train then goes around the Seven Beach Line or to Weston-super-Mare to Portishead. Please put all of your support behind Portishead. It's been going on far too long. I feel there's so many. They came to our AGM, the team doing the Portishead line. Please put that in. It'll just transform the public perception of what can be done with trains and thank you trams, buses, bus stops. As we said, thank you very much putting a bus stop next to Ashley Down Station on Miller Road, but let's see one on Sheldon Road as well. Just put that correct. Let's get bus, rail, cycling all working together. Good modern city, people out of cars. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Now, the next on list is Brendan Taylor or Ian Becky, but I imagine that Dave is speaking on their behalf.
Just for the benefit of Councillor Gibson, the reason that Brendan Taylor is not here today is Brendan is a wheelchair user. Electric wheelchair user. He travels the rail network extensively and travels around Metro West. I know he passes a lot of information into the team when things go wrong, which is very helpful. But he can't get here because the public transport doesn't run here. So just a plea for equalities and disabilities, and please, we need an equalities officer at the West of England Mirror Combined Authority working with North Somerset. And we also need, by the way, a public sector person running your buses. We've got a consultant there now, head of buses. That needs to change as well. As Richard, I love you, but we need a director that is permanent, and we need a solicitor that's permanent and not people that are interim. On the issue of accessibility, then obviously you've made the points. Knelsey and Backwell's not accessible. Weston-super-Mare is not accessible other than going across barrel crossings. Bridgewater's not accessible. And obviously Parson's not accessible. And we have the situation where we're using Intercity Express trains on the local services, which when they go onto the platforms, wheelchair users can't get on if they're on the wrong platform. And that is extraordinary. I was with Andy Burnham a few weeks ago. We had a long discussion about this. Andy says it shouldn't take 70 years to do accessibility in the West of England Combined Authority or in the combined for transport and trains. It should be being done in 10 years, and it should be done democratically and not be a carve-up at the DfT as to which disabled group gets a station access or not. And that includes Trowbridge and Oldfield Park and Keynsham. So just to put that on record, I think everybody would like to say thank you to Marvin for all the work he's done on pushing equalities in Bristol and the issues around disability and access. He certainly pushed that agenda, but I know so is the other 4 unitaries. I'm going to say it's high on your agenda, so I'm very pleased at that. And you all have equality forums. But again, going back to buses, we need to make sure the buses are accessible. We need to make sure that Porter's headline is built. I understand we need £50 million from the DfT. We need to be working on Liam Fox and working on Karen Smith and having push with the regional MPs to get that money out of the department and signed off before the general election. And also hopefully Ashton Gate Station will be part of that in the future. Equally, we need to make sure the Henbury Loop line is also fully accessible and also is being funded and going into access. We still don't have Lawrence Hill, Stapleton Road, Parsons Street, Nelsie and Blackwell, which are non-accessible stations in our patch. So I'm just asking that the whole network is made as accessible as possible from an equalities point of view. And can I make the point? Andy Burnham says he starts his meetings with an equalities report and about access. Perhaps we could have an equalities report on the public transport network, both at Mayor Norris's meeting and the one chaired by Mike Bell. So we do have an equalities report on the agenda, whether that's diversity, whether that's black and ethnic minorities. We do seem very white middle class for an area that's not white middle class. So that's just a point I'd like to say. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you very much, Dave. And I know that my colleague, Councillor Chris Wilmore, has been pushing the issue of the equalities officer, as I'm sure have others. Then there's no one else in the room who would like to speak from the public. Then item 5, Chair's announcements. I'd like to ask the Interim Chief Exec to make a short statement.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, it's probably appropriate, and it is relevant to the paper that we'll receive as well. You will know from the statements made by Councillor Bell, who was chairing the last meeting, that we've not managed to reach agreement, as is highlighted in the paper as agenda item 9, around the sort of the future of the LEP and particularly the business board that we want to create because of the importance of business to many of the priorities we have, not least driving growth in the economy in the region. We have received, and you will know that both our Mayor, Councillor Bell, both wrote to the Secretary of State, the Right Honourable Michael Gove. We have received a response, which we received late yesterday, encouraging us to undertake new constructive negotiations in respect of having not been able to reach that agreement, and has asked us to respond back to that within 2 weeks, which we will clearly do. So we, over the next 2 weeks, will be undertaking those new constructive negotiations to endeavour to find the right solution for the region as well. Really, one other thing I would say is that the department's officials, the DLAC officials, Department for Housing, Levelling Up and Communities, have been as ever incredibly supportive and helpful in helping us to move this matter forward. There is the risk, as you'll see in the paper later on, around the 240,000 of funding that the government will supply to us, that is being withheld, as part of the what we will get if we get to a solution that's acceptable for both sides. So there is a financial settlement which is worthy of us continuing to make sure that we work this forward and arrive at that right answer for the region.
Thank you very much. And move then to item 6, comments from the Chair of the Local Enterprise Partnership. Richard.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I'd just like to open by expressing our thanks to Marvin. We said a little bit in the previous meeting, but we'd just like to reiterate the thanks for your service over the last 8 years and your contribution to all of the work across the west of England and in Bristol, tackling those deep inequalities and setting some of those big picture visions and creating the impact in places like Temple Quarter. Thank you. you've heard from Richard that we have struggled to necessarily bring all of the attributes of our integration, but I would like to just say to members of the audience, Dave in particular, we have been working really closely as a LEP board with the Combined Authority since the Combined Authority was set up. The assurance framework, the programme sits within the Combined Authority. The work that we undertake is often co-created with officers from both the Combined Authority and the constituent members. And so, in a sense, what we're seeking to do is transition to new arrangements, but build on the great work and the legacy of the last 10 or so years of the local enterprise partnership. And we were really pleased to see that the government published a clear paper that business engagement in economic growth activity is vital, bringing the business voice, the university voice to support, engage with local authorities and the public sector is vital. And I think we've proven over the 10 or so years of the local enterprise partnership that actually that co-working delivers really good outcomes. So yes, we do want to see this matter resolved quickly. The business board members are wholeheartedly committed to working with supporting partners to deliver that outcome. And we have said before, but we'll reiterate that we would like to see North Somerset Council become part of the Combined Authority in due course. Recognise, however, that there are processes for that to take place. But our functioning economic area is the full unitary, 4 unitary authority areas. But I'd also like to reiterate the point Marvin made in the previous meeting, that actually when you start to look at how the economy functions more widely, our engagement with the Western Gateway is becoming increasingly important. When we look at some of the studies about how the economy is working, things like cyber tech, we connect from Gloucestershire to Bristol to South Wales. When we look at the opportunities for energy out of the Severn Estuary and the commission that was launched this week, you can see how we can collaborate much more widely. So we have to work together well. The Best Value Notice has given us a reminder that we've got to solve that problem, and again we want to work with colleagues to address that. But actually it's not just co-working across the west of England, it is looking out more widely with our partners, because that's how we will leverage advantage for our citizens and our residents in being able to create economic opportunity and tackling inequality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 7 is comments from the Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Been published and circulated prior to the meeting. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just quickly. We're disappointed with the lack of progress in determining how the LEP will be integrated into the workings of the Combined Authority as mandated by government, and particularly how the voice of business will be heard in the west of England and play its part across the sub-region and beyond in delivering outcomes. It's symptomatic of the wider governance issues, and we look forward to seeing how these are resolved, including the long-term relationship with North Somerset Council. It's disappointing that the funding from government is withheld, but this is really a relatively minor issue compared with the importance of a satisfactory long-term arrangements and, to echo Mayor Rees, satisfactory long-term ambition. We urge, it's a bit late now, but we urge Mayor Norris to play his role appropriately in the process, and a good start would be attending the Joint Committee to build trust and demonstrate a commitment to finding agreeable solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next item, item 8, comments from the Authorities Audit Committee. Councillor Gollop, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, thank you. Members will be glad to know I'm not going to repeat my comments to the previous meeting, so apologies to Councillor Gibbons that I won't be going through all that, but I think your colleagues will probably be relieved. But I just want to add the LEP integration, great disappointment to Audit Committee. It is fundamental. We've seen the really positive role, not just as Richard's here, but that the LEP have played in the process, and we have to find a way, and this is part of the issues raised by the Best Value Notice, of finding resolutions to what appear to be insoluble problems, but where actually there should be enough common ground to make progress. That links in to one of the key issues of the Best Value Notice regarding the Constitution, which not surprisingly, is impossible to deliver when you need a constitution that covers 3 authorities, 4 authorities, a LEP, and all sorts of things with different boundaries for each of them. I don't think one could make a bigger challenge for the monitoring officer to rewrite a constitution if one tried. We could have a go, I suppose, and see if we could make it harder. But it just seems to me the constitution has to work, and we need to find ways of simplifying what goes into that. And I make the comment not from a political point of view, but from a logical point of view. The idea of having 3 authorities in the majority of what WACA does and 4 for the joint committee is absolute madness. As a resident who is concerned about the pressures of traffic coming into the city of Bristol, we need a solution that includes all 4 authorities in everything we do. It's easy to say that as chair of Audit Committee. I recognise it's a lot harder for officers and our leaders to deliver it, but I'm only saying it's a critical issue that needs to be resolved, and my residents and loads of other residents don't understand why it's not the case. So can we add that to the pragmatic list of things that urgently need to be resolved? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So item 9, the LEP and the Invest in Bristol and Bath IVB forecast 2023-24. This report represents the revenue and capital forecast of the West of England Joint Committee for the financial year 23-24, based on data from the period April 23 to January 24. I would now like to move the recommendation as set out in the report. Can I please call for a seconder? Thank you, Amanda. Would you like to speak now?
Just to say that we are very supportive of the recommendations and grateful that it's here, but seeing as I have got the opportunity to speak, I am just going to re-emphasise how really key we in Baines feel that it is that we do get to a stage where we are talking about 4, not 3, in terms of unitary authorities.
Mm-hmm. Do any other members wish to speak to this item? No? Did you?
So,
Go on,
I'm
Marvin.
just going to comment because I agree, actually. But I'll just go over a conversation I had with Tim Bowles way back when, as the result was coming up. And this is about us being honest about the nature of our area and having a plan. I mean, the couple of things that we said at the time was we do need to expand. But one is we are different as authorities. Perhaps Bristol's maybe a bit more different, and there have been, historically, even when I worked in the NHS, what's the cross-border interest here, right? So as a city, there are particular things about the nature of our patch that we lead that might be different. Levels of diversity, intensity, density, congestion, and so forth. So what I would just suggest that whatever politicians representing Bristol end up sitting around the table, wherever they're from, will have the challenge of saying a couple of things. One is how, if we come together, if amongst the 3 authorities, 3 have very strong rural interests, how do we make sure that the urban interest doesn't get drowned out in any vote at any particular point in time? Now, that's not setting divisions up. It's about saying, the same as conversation I had with Toby Savage back in the day, let's be honest that your preferred options are not ours are not all yours, but we have a problem to solve. How do we get it solved? Recognizing our differences. And that's going to be, that rural-urban difference is incredibly important. I was involved with a piece of work with the RSA recently called the Urban Futures Commission. And it was about the future of the UK cities. And you can find the report. I suggest it was a good piece of work. And what we said was we need to find a way of talking about cities that is not cities or towns. It's cities and towns and cities, and understand how we work with their interdependence. So the city's population by residency is about 475. During the working day, we go over 1 million, right? So that, and bear in mind, some people will leave Bristol to go and work in London, whatever. So you might say we let's be safe and underestimate about 500,000 people coming into the city each day. That's 500,000 people living in surrounding areas that we need to be healthy, whether they're in Yates or Nailsea or Bath. We need them to be healthy and have good quality of lives there because they're working in businesses in the city, but also their Baines, South Gloss, North Somerset need their employment to be good in Bristol. So that interdependence is something that we have to get our heads around. It's something I would say we need to be really clear. There was also we also raised an issue at the time as well, which is about the actual funding pot at the Quine Authority. So it seemed that sometimes we have to come to this. It's felt that sometimes, like, say £9 got sent down, we just say, well, let's just split it 3 ways because they're all the same. Well, that's not a strategic kind of data-informed way of allocating money. It's not saying that anyone should be important, but if we had that sequence of investable propositions that we think lead us up to the place we want to be in 20 years' time, then we're less sensitive about, well, you'll get the money this year. We should be in a place where we can say, do you know what, we have seen that it's actually delivering in Baines on this particular intervention that is needed in the next sequence. So we're relaxed about that. We don't need to come in and go back and say, well, the money's coming, Baines has got some, so we must come and get some of that money, because we've agreed on the narrative we're going to be, the journey we're going to go on, which comes back to that point about strategic review going up. Now, I think if we did some of that work, then that would offer assurances within Bristol that they wouldn't end up as a city surrounded by 3 rural areas at any one point in time could get drowned out 3-1, in a vote. I'm just saying it's something that we need to work through. Yeah.
I wasn't. Oh, hang on. Would you like to go first, Catherine?
Can't come all this way and not speak. I'm a politician. I just wanted to say that I do hear and appreciate what Marvin's just said, and I also appreciate the will there seems to be for North Somerset to become a full part of WECA. Because personally, I'm just speaking as a personal councillor, that is obviously something I'd love to see, but in the right way, under the right circumstances, and with the right governance in place, obviously. And I just wanted to say, with regard to this paper, that item 3 notes that the core funding to support the integration is going to be withheld. And obviously, we have received the letter. We've only just received it. We note its contents, and we want to do whatever we can to work in the most productive and positive way with Mayor Norris to resolve this so that things can move forward to our mutual benefit. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I just wanted to respond to some of Marvin's comments, because I think it's important not to see this in a very sort of simplistic city versus 3 rural authorities, because actually South Gloucestershire has a very significant part that is the urban fringe of Bristol. It's about 60% of the population live there, and also is in many ways the economic powerhouse for the region. It's got some very significant industries such as aerospace. We've got the Bristol and Bath Science Park, which ironically is in neither Bristol nor Bath, but is in fact in South Gloucestershire. And I think Amanda's already spoken, but I'm sure we'd want to recognise that Bath is a city with a different set of needs, and as a World Heritage City, and North Somerset is then again different to South Gloucestershire. So I think it's really important that we recognise the strengths of each of our constituent authorities, and that we don't see it as a them versus us, and we recognise that it's important to be able to get people to the North Fringe in South Gloucestershire. It's important to be able to get people in that of Bath, and to Weston and so forth. So I think we need to be careful about seeing the authorities in very simplistic terms. Okay. Well, I didn't say so. You were. I'm saying that we should avoid simplistic descriptions of the authorities. Anyway, moving on then. So recommendations 1 and 3 don't actually require a vote because they're simply for noting. So I'm just going to do a vote on recommendation 2. and I've proposed it and Mando seconded it, so can I have all those in favour? Thank you very much. That's carried unanimously. And that concludes our business today, so thank you very much to everyone for attending and have a safe journey home.